Here we go, and welcome to another DoneJS contributors meeting. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing great. I've got a 5-hour drive ahead of me today, but I did really well at Jiu-Jitsu today, so I'm quite pleased with myself. My status is, so I'm working towards 3.0. I was about to start the documentation, but yesterday I spent all day triaging CanJS issues. Are other people getting these emails from all of this? David and Matthew, I bet you've got like.
I don't do the emails for everything that happens on GitHub, but I do see the notification in GitHub itself.
Okay, yeah. So I'm moving them all to individual repos. That's something that I want to talk about like at the end of this, just to show a little bit what I've done and how am I prioritizing. I'm kind of putting a priority number on everything and a amount of time I think it would take, complexity. So I think it's really nice because you basically get to see, I like that it's grouped now by different projects. It's like you can see all of Can Route's issues in one place, which is actually really cool because it's like, I feel like it's going to motivate me at least to just say, oh, I'm going to fix everything in Can Route today. It seems much more manageable. You can see all of your issues that are related much easier. So that's a really positive thing that maybe we should have done earlier, is like label by which module, but now it's kind of done for us. So next week I'll be working on the documentation for CanJS 3.0, getting that ready. Who wants to go next? Julian?
Yeah, sure, I can, but I have nothing to talk about, so it's really short. So, yeah, I
No worries.
give next.
Cool. Who wants to go next?
I'll jump in. I oh yeah, I've been working on a bug that Manuel found in Steel loading package JSONs. There was a race condition when like two defect you were looking at, Justin, that thing that you saw the other day. It seems similar at least. But anyways, wrapping that up, I wound up actually refactoring the fetching part a little bit to make it a little bit easier to read. And the other thing I was working on is Starla went through the progressively loading guide and she found some issues. I'm really bad at writing guides. I've realized is that I'm not specific enough, or I make little mistakes. So I fixed most of the most of the problems that she found. She also suggested like using the highlighting thing like we have in the DoneJS guide, which I think is a good idea. So I want to add that as
Maybe
well.
maybe wait. If I'm going to make this change to document.js, then
So it'd be shareable.
that'll be a big
Okay.
part of what. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, is make it so we can share those kind of little.
Is it this is a front end JavaScript thing? You'll be able to share those as well.
Yeah, let's talk about it when we talk like that. So that's on the
Okay.
list of things to talk about. Let's talk about the site and kind of the plan for that at
Okay.
the end of status.
So my only other status is I'll be looking at CanJS 3.0 SSR next. So
Awesome.
that's me.
Thanks.
I'll go ahead. So I keep working on well, okay, so yesterday I made a CanJS patch release. There was a couple of things for it to work with Browserify and 2 other small issues that made it in there. And then I just keep working away on migrating all the individual modules to make sure that they all look the same. And also Matthew added the feature of exporting certain things to the global namespace, so I'm adding that at the same time. I'm about 60% through, so I'm going to finish that today, and then we can hopefully actually finally merge that pull request for CanJS 3.0 that I have.
So the only other thing that I was hoping you could get done before you start the client project would be, and maybe Matthew can then do it, is just setting up the Greenkeeper.
Oh, yeah, so
Would be really nice to run like the CanJS's test anytime any of the lower level projects change.
So yeah, that's what it does. I'm gonna enable it for all the other project as well. And yeah, I mean, in the end, it's just I have a list where I wrote kind of a script where it processes all those, make sure that they look the same. I think with the same one, I can just go through and say run greenkeeper enable. I'm not sure if it allows multiple organizations because I already have one for me. So I gotta see if I can sign up for the other one. But that should be super quick.
Yeah, that would be really nice. And so I get emails too, because I don't get them for the DoneJS one.
You don't seem to be getting any emails for CI builds.
Yeah.
I do recommend setting that up.
Yeah. Yeah, to set that up. That's something for me. Okay. Cool. Thanks, David. Kevin?
Yeah, I don't have too much this week. I have a pull request in for that Can Connect bug that I worked on with you, Justin. I don't know if you've got a chance to take a look at that, but if you got some feedback, let me know.
I thought I merged it. Maybe not. I merged something you did.
Yeah, you merged the earlier Can Util stuff that I was doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think that's all I got. So.
Have you sent me your bio for the website yet?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Now you're not an official contributor until you're on the website. That's when you know you're cool. You get like the varsity jacket then. Like,
yeah, I got to figure out something to say because Matthews says he has a beard and we got the same last name, so it's confusing. I gotta figure out something to put on there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just send me with it. You have it ready. Awesome. Anything else? Brad, Chasen?
I don't have anything else. I'm just sitting in.
Same.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things to talk about. I don't think we'll be able to talk with governance. I'll have to check next week and make sure. Like I forgot I was going to email Prashant and Sheriff and be like, hey, make sure that they can come to this one. I will email them right after this and make sure they can come next Friday so we can talk about governance. So the things that I wanted to talk about are the things I listed here. Let's make sure I get the right screen share. The first is, this is just kind of a sore spot in CanJS. It has been for a while. It's something that FRP does well, but it's very hard to, whenever you have things that need to change not based around value, but around the fact that something changed, well then can compute kind of falls over. Now I would say that 90% of most apps, you're just dealing with values, transforming values, but occasionally there's a part, and Bitballs had this in it too. Just something, I guess maybe I'm gonna start highlighting like an issue to think about a week, every week, where it's like, hey, it'd be nice to have some real thought around a good API for something like this. This is just my, shooting from the hip API where you could define a property, but then say, hey, I want a stream that represents the other kind of events happening. So make a stream for round select value and for game's length. So this is actually values changing, but you get a stream of when those values change. And what I want to do is take it when I want to take basically whatever the value of the selected, kind of what the user's selecting, but if the number of games changes, I'm always going to then, user selected round is always going to be null. So this basically says, like, take take the select stream unless the game's length changes, and then you want the value of user selected round to be null. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I was going for with this example.
So then, would we have like a can.stream type?
Yeah.
Can stream, or
we kind of already have can FRP, but it never got completed. But I think that was kind of just that was partially the way there. It was nice because it could take properties on observables and convert them to their streams, which is kind of what I'm assuming is working here. But then, yeah, we would add something to the define plugin that would, because the thing that I want to make sure is to clean up one of the problems with streams is that you have to always kind of manage your binding and unbinding on your dependent streams yourself. I kind of hate that. That's what's so nice about computes is that computes will bind when that value is needed. So only when you're listening to user selected round, only when you've actually bound to it does it have a value, just like asynchronous getters. And then it would know that, hey, I'm going to set up a stream for these things and call this back to get the resulting stream and then get the value from that resulting stream and keep user selected round updated with that.
So wait, user selected round is a string, right?
No, it's a property. It's a property value. You could almost think of this as like a getter. It's a special stream getter. It gets a value, but you build it as a stream. Like streams do have a value at the end of the chain often.
Okay.
Now you could leave its value as a stream, perhaps. Maybe that's one thing that this is missing is like I'm returning a stream, but I'm not. Well, you could get the stream back, obviously, the same way that these get the stream. Is you could say, oh, something else that wanted to act like a stream, we could get it. But I guess I think this is also maybe because of my bias with observables and stuff like that, and just I think practically at the end of the day, there's values that you could print out is really what you want, everything eventually working its way to. So that's why it's like from kind of values into streams, and then a stream, and then we basically will take it to get its value out for user selected round. I don't know. That's
reasonable.
Huh?
I think it's reasonable.
All right. Well, this would be a fun issue if someone wants to pick it up. So that's my issue of the week, I guess.
What FRP library would you use? Like, which one would you use? I think
the way that I would do it is pick whichever one's just the most popular or the one that like fits the best. You know, I don't know. I don't know enough about Bacon versus any of the other ones.
I think RX is doing a good job. People are using, it's I think it's a Microsoft project. I've used it. Works pretty well. But yeah, okay, makes sense.
Anyways, I think that if this was someone wanted to solve these problems, this is a really good issue to pick up. That's all I'm saying. So the next thing, I want to talk about the plan for documenting 3.0. My plan right now is that there's like 3 or 4 different levels of documentation that people like or enjoy, and especially as CanJS, I think, is becoming more library focused than framework focused with 3.0. It's nice to have things like this, right? Like CanFixtures APIs that I just manually wrote, but it's a bear to make things like this in Markdown. But it's really nice. I mean, if you just wanted to come and use, hey, I see these as kind of like something like CanFixture as a, the gateway drug to maybe some of the rest of CanJS. So it's really nice for a person who's just like looking for something simple. Oh, I come to the Markdown page. I could kind of just get a quick take on all of the APIs available, go right to them and kind of start. Now, the problem with Markdown for something on the order of CanJS is that it doesn't support, well, there's a few problems with this. One is if we're just to do everything in Markdown in individual repositories, which is an option, but there's a few things that suffer from. One is making these kind of things is really tedious and very error prone, right? I did the same thing for CanSet. It had a bug in it forever. Eventually someone's like, hey, some of these links are not working. Had to go back and fix them. It's really obnoxious. The second thing is I did it because I've got the experience with DocumentJS to do it, but things like type defs. So take CanFixture that it takes Ajax settings and then takes some request handler. And the request handler has a bunch of arguments, and then it has a response function that takes a bunch of arguments as well. Type defs and things like that are kind of kludgy here to really make them work. Because in reality, response and stuff like that and request handler are available in all of these other places. But to kind of know that, oh, how do I get to request handler? Yeah, I can make a link, and that's going to be. But if I had to make a link in all of those, then it just becomes unmanageable. Versus something like CanJS's current docs.
Wait, are you talking about doing it manually, or are you talking about generating?
I'm talking about the problem with
right?
doing it manually.
Okay.
Right. So, anyways, I guess I could get less in the weeds here. In general, the problem is, okay, what I want for 3.0 is this, and I want a kind of high-level overview for like the old site, and then you need the in-depth API docs that we have today with all of the, like Atter and all of its signatures and how they behave and examples and things like that. Right? So we need a place, in my opinion, we need a place for all of those things. So my plan is to make Document.js able to produce, so I can still write docs the way we've written them in the past, but Document.js can produce a markdown README, so it can keep a README up to date. But then I'm also going to make it so that every module, so I think the docs are going to be module based. So here it's not going to say can.construct. Instead, it's going to do can-construct. It's going to list all the modules, and they're going to have their alias, so people, if they click it, they can see like an alias for it, what it's normally called, or if you're using the global, that's what it's called. The high-level overview will say stuff like, basically what's here now, just like, hey, this is basically what's it. For more information, you can go to another place. But it'll be more tightly integrated than it used to be for when we actually had this site. And then the same docs that are used to kind of produce this and the in-depth docs are used to generate something like a README. So that, my hope is that we can kind of have our cake and eat it. We can have the nice like different layers of documentation that people are going to want. Any thoughts about this?
I mean, I think it's good to have the README. I did the same thing with DoneSSR. It's very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, it's a huge pain making these, but it's really nice. I mean, that's if we want something like can compute and our observables to be able to be used other places, I think the README is critical for that. But if we want people using CanJS wholesale, right, and getting into CanJS, I think this is wholesale, or this is really important. And then if we want people not to get frustrated and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's great, I kind of understand at the beginning, but I don't really know what Atter does. Right?
So with this
example I get, well then that's why you need this, right?
Does the markdown for each go into its individual module repository, or is there like a centralized place?
No, that's the plan. It will all be, each will have its own individual.
Okay, cool. So if I wanted to contribute to the can fixture docs, I would go to the can fixture repo.
Yeah, that's just kind of why I like being able to write it into the kind of sum up, this is just a different expression of what this would be. So the kind of, except it's gonna probably have less, I think you could think of it as like every page that would normally be in here is gonna have like there's gonna be like one example, but then you can have multiple examples. This is kind of how Lodash's docs kind of are structured, where there's like one canonical example, and that's what would appear in the README. It would not, so it would just give one example per, API, so that, yeah, maybe you had this expanded like long treaty and a million, much more information that wouldn't show up in the README. it would only show up really on CanJS's site. But I mean, we could make it show up everywhere. I just feel like that's overkill. I feel like some of them have to play with the right balance here, and how to say, okay, this is like extra information that we only want in, like, you know, the huge site. Now there's information that we want in the README and maybe the high-level overview, and we'll just kind of articulate those things. It's like, here's the highest level stuff, here's the second order stuff, and then there's the third order, you know, everything. But what I like is that if you're going to contribute to canned fixture, well, if you're contributing to these things, you can find it and you can regenerate the README, and you can kind of see it right away. You don't have to wait for like a site to be generated.
What do you mean when you say regenerate the README? Just edit the README?
No, you're going to edit your markdown file, individual markdown files for like each, you know, like this is going to be in its own markdown file. And it will regenerate the README from probably like here down.
When you say it's, what is it?
DocumentJS.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So that's the plan, basically.
So I'm slightly confused. You're saying that the README is going to be different than like the detailed docs?
Maybe, I don't know. Like
site?
I feel like our detailed docs can get really long sometimes.
But
it doesn't
not
have to.
for each individual module, right? Like, I think, you know, now that we split them all out.
Maybe. I mean, if you just look at like maybe like, because like, let's just say taking canned fixture, maybe, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if there's. Okay. I'll put it this way. My hope is, yes, that I don't need like 3 different kind of levels of docs, and that the README would just be able to take whatever in, you know, canned fixture and output all of it. But
so I think one solution to help with having the API docs too long is having a better separation between guides and API docs, because some of our API docs at the moment are kind of more like guides.
Yeah, that's true.
But you can't really find them if you don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah,
right?
so like
It's
all of this stuff kind of guide related.
Yeah, exactly. So this should go in a like, how do I emulate, how do I test kind of guide or something like that, right? Instead of the canned fixture API docs. I think then we can keep the API docs at a like manageable length.
Yeah, that's
and our guides are gonna probably get better.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I mean, I could also make it so that like there is a guides, you know, you can have a guides markdown in canned fixtures so that like that people that are linkable, but it wouldn't show up under API docs. It'd be like, oh, canned fixture, hey, if you want to understand, you want to check out the guides for canned fixture, click here, and that would take you to like a guides area, not API docs. That's probably doable.
Well, the guides should probably be in its own thing, right? Because we can't necessarily have the guides separated by module. The guides are going to be separated by like learning concept or learning topic.
Yeah, but you could link to the guides that are like based in canned fixture, is what I mean. Like there's tags available, so we could just say, hey, check out, you know, check out the pages that or guides that are related that involve canned fixture. We can make that kind of happen. At least, actually, I don't know if we can do that with the new DocumentJS. The old DocumentJS, you could add tags. Actually, I think you can now. I just don't think there's a navigation option to like say, take me to a navigation where it's like every guide that's tagged with canned fixture. But I do think that kind of linking is important, right? It would be very nice to have on your API docs page links to say, hey, testing performance. Okay, here's a good way of like, you know, testing performance, and it talks about canned fixture. You know, how do you organize fixtures? And we could, I think it would be very cool if we can have the little micro, I don't know. This is getting past kind of what I was envisioned when I was starting to have this conversation, but it would be cool to have a little micro guides. They're not in the APIs, but they definitely should be linked there so that people can find them when they're coming from like CanFixture or something like that. Anywho, any other thoughts?
Are we doing like a guides overhaul? That's my vote.
Yeah, we just did one last summer. You know, that's the kind of the issues.
I feel like if we treated, because I know we're going to go into this like API docs first. I don't know.
No, I think, well, part of it is, well, my hope is that if we go to something like this as CanJS's homepage, this kind of was the guide. This was the guide when we released CanJS, right? There wasn't like a formal, like, let's build something, but because this did kind of eventually build up to like a to-do example, and it was all related, that if you had read through it, there was like an example at the end of it that like made a lot of, okay, so it's like, yeah, okay, here's the, I just saw it when I was scrolling through. It's like, someone's calling me from Connecticut. Okay, so this, it's like, okay, we're going to build an editor with a control, and now we're adding our routing, and then like all of those things added up to like an actual application. My preference would be, yes, we could have a more in-depth guide, but I would like these, I think these type of guides are much more important. Like, just quick to the point. Okay, not breaking. Oh, this is the 2. So yeah, I'd say, here's what we're going to build up over the course of this. That's my preference for a guide. Very simple app that touches everything, so you can get a little bit of understanding, and then sure, we can have more in-depth guides. Cool. All right, let's move on here. Okay, so how will CanJS's issues be managed? Kind of already mentioned this. So what I've been doing, and this is kind of in preparation for something also kind of going on Bitovi, where we're kind of giving potential points for issues depending on their complexity. I've just started labeling the issues that I've just created with their priority, which is like P4. 0 would be like, we have to drop like, I'm going to drop everything. I shouldn't even be labeling it P0. I should be fixing it. Like things like memory leaks or just like, you know, things just totally messed up. It was the highest, P0, but I haven't called anything that, to like, you know, P1000 or whatever, just in terms of priority. My sense of it is like P0, stop the world and get it fixed. P1 is like, okay, this is pretty serious. We should probably start working on this right away. P1 is like, okay, that's an issue, something we're very interested in doing. We're not going to like move mountains to do it, and then kind of down from there.
Justin, I think these would be a lot more accessible if they were labels instead of in the issue titles.
Yes, that's true, but, well, I'm not going to label the time, because the time can go up between 0 and, you know, a gazillion. And also, I just don't, I mean, the reason why I'm not doing it is that there's like 10 different projects right now across CanJS, and I've only created 2 issues in Can Component. I don't want to have to go through and create a P0 through 5 when I don't even know if I've gotten there. So that is maybe something for later. It's taking me long enough to go through the 150 issues as it is. I don't want to create 5 times 20 labels in every single project. But I'll say I agree with you, Chasen. I just not priority for me, at least, to do that right now. I think this is good enough for me for now. If you want to help with it, I'm totally. If you want to go through that and go label them all, make these priority labels, I'd be very happy.
But what is the future? If a user create an issue, where should create this user's issue? Maybe he don't know in which repo he should create this issue, so he creates in CanJS. And
yep, that's.
Do you have to move this issue, or
That should be that's kind of like the open source team's job is to kind of triage. So if they don't know, we'll say on the if you don't know where to create the issue, just create in CanJS and we'll find a home for it. If you do know where it belongs, then please create it, in the right project. And we'll be responsible for moving things. Some things I haven't moved because like they kind of exist outside of like Mixin plugin, right? That's not in any part of CanJS right now. It would be like a new module we would add to CanJS. So that doesn't get added. So some things like that I'm leaving in. But yeah, that'll be the process. Create issues if you know where it goes. If you don't, just put them here, and then we'll move them into place when we need to. But yeah, it's really nice to see. Like, it's also helped me consolidate. There's a lot of duplicate issues that I've been finding, and it's nice to. Oh, this isn't the one that I was thinking of. I forgot where it was.
The only problem I think you're going to run into with moving them, I've seen this a little bit with Steel, is it makes it a little difficult to have like milestones. You probably want to have a milestone for CanJS 3.1. It's going to be hard to do that with the mini repos approach.
Yeah, well,
not sure what the solution is.
I'm not sure what the solution for post CanJS 3.0 necessarily looks like. That's going to be an interesting thing, because my hope is that a lot of these modules can kind of evolve on their own, which frees us up to saying like, oh, there's just one that I created, and maybe it's CanStash or something that had like a bunch of duplicate issues, but now I can't find what it was.
Yeah, it's true.
It's nice that we could have like a CanStash, like, okay, there's 3.0, but now there's a 4.0 with some breaking change, but we could, you could presumably maintain both of them. And the 4.0 could run on, same observables and stuff like that. That 3.0 is just has one breaking change.
So, but what about testing? So, how do we testing with all these repos? So we have this CanJS main repo, and if we create a test in one of the repos for maybe stash or fixture, we have to add this test into the CanJS main repo, right?
No. No, you just add your test in your individual repo. We're probably going to have like an integration test, and like what I was talking about with David, is he's going to set up Greenkeeper so that when any of the all CanJS does is right now, correct me if I'm wrong, David, is it does pull in every module and runs all of their tests at the same time. But each individual project has its own build and its own tests that are running.
So, but how can we make sure that we don't break things in some repo that break CanJS?
Well, that's what Greenkeeper is for. Is to make sure that if I change CanStash in a way that's like, let's say it's incompatible with Can component or Can view bindings or something like that, then their tests would break. We'll rerun all of their tests, we'll rerun CanJS's tests, and their tests will break, and then I would be like, oh, I need to make that fix.
Okay.
Yeah, the idea is, though, everything should kind of be self-contained and self-tested. Hopefully CanStash's tests are so good that, if I were to do something that would break Can component, I would have had to be breaking CanStash's tests. Hopefully. That's the theory. That will not be totally true in practice. There will be issues, but with Greenkeeper we should be able to resolve them pretty quickly, or identify them and fix them. All right. I think that was it on my list. Anybody else want to discuss anything else?
Yeah, if I can. So Matthew, how do you think we can go on with Steel? So next week I have time maybe to work on Steel. If you want, how we managed the next release
Do you
2.0.
wanna work on it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Awesome.
So
The biggest, well, there's one thing you could take is, you know how you have to set npm algorithm if you're using npm 3?
yeah,
We want to make that the default.
okay,
So this is working towards 1.0. That'd be something you could take, I'm sure, without any problem.
okay.
Uh,
So any
I
plans
I have some set of issues too. What's that?
any plans for releasing Steel 1.0?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be the next like big thing that I work on. I am helping out with CanJS 3.0 here and there. Like I'm working on Done SSR next, but yeah, Steel is like the next thing after that. But if you're helping, then that's going to make it a lot easier because there's no giant changes that's going to need my attention necessarily. I don't think. So yeah, if you can help out here and there, that would make it go quicker.
What about a new homepage? Is there any plans about that?
Um, not like a totally new homepage. There's a thing that I'm sure you've seen Marshall is working on and add in like all the different projects that we support and all that kind of thing. Think that's great. I think that's the way to go. But no, I don't want to completely rebuild steeljs.com at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. But thanks. Yeah, we can. There's a milestone under Steel if you wanted to start taking a look. But yeah, I think that'd be a good one to start with.
Okay, sure.
Cool. Anything else? So the issue I think I'm going to have for next week that I want to think about is there's a bunch of issues around CAN routing, what happens when your routing rules aren't matched. So that would be good to talk about what the API should look like and how CAN route should handle that. So that's what I want to talk
Is
about.
there a specific issue?
There's a few issues related to that. I'll post the issue and then
Okay.
on Monday.
Yeah.
And people
Like
can,
I know it's like a little cloudy. I sort of know what you're talking about.
yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next week.
All right. See you all.
Weekend.